Hello, and welcome to Blink Community Space for the second chatbot. We are so happy that they are hosting us for the second time and very grateful. I am your host, Eric Keys. For everyone that I don't know and for everyone that I do know, Sashiburi, good to see you again. Now, first off, let's talk about what is CHATBOT. CHATBOT talks with entrepreneurs. It's a monthly event hosted by Hashi Media KK, and we do just that. We talk to entrepreneurs. We bring the best brains and the brightest individuals in entrepreneurship, business, social media marketing, and building their own path in life. And we have a conversation with them. We get to pick their brains, and they bring their real life experiences to the table and share their knowledge and everything with you. So we're very excited to have you, and thanks for coming out. Our second chatbot guest, Anthony, is a communications and social media marketing expert with over 10 years of experience, which led him to manage the social media marketing, digital ads, and print ads of the American Chamber of Commerce here in Japan. On top of that, he holds an MBA from the University of Riverside, California, and on top of that, he is a professor at NYU Tokyo School of Professional Studies. So let's give him a round of applause and a warm welcome. Mr. Anthony Griffin. How are you tonight?
Oh, one moment. Testing. Awesome. Okay, I'm good. Thank you for the warm introduction. Really appreciate it.
I had to take a lot of stuff out, like his accolades and achievements, just to fit it into the time frame. But we're very happy to have you.
No, I think you built me up too much. So now the pressure is on. But thank you.
So how was your day today?
Busy, a lot of writing. So yeah, I'm happy to be here and speaking and meeting people instead of being hunched over the computer writing copy. So yeah, how about you?
Good. Mostly just mental preparation to meet yourself and all of these lovely individuals staring at us right now. So just had to get ready all day. But it's been a good day. It's been a great day, and now it's about to finish strong.
All right, let's do it.
Awesome. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, a brief introduction for everyone who doesn't already know who you are.
Sure. Well, first of all, I do see a few familiar faces, so thanks for coming to hear me again. I'll try to make it worth your while. But yeah, for those who don't know, I'm from a city called Riverside. It's near Los Angeles in California. So I grew up around that area. I went to school out there, and that's where my marketing career began. Once I started marketing, I also started traveling to Japan and fell in love with the country. So then I decided to move here and live here and try to make a career and a life here. So I came over, started as a business English instructor, so I had to do a little career pivot for a while, but soon after that I started working on the corporate scene. I got into coaching, training, communications consulting, and then as you heard, I eventually landed at the American Chamber of Commerce where I was the marketing manager. So after a few years there, I decided to take everything that I had learned and try to bring my services and products directly to the consumer.
Amazing. And how long have you been in Japan now?
As of January 9th, it's been 11 years. Yeah.
I've only got 1 year so far, and it's been quite the experience. So what was it like coming from a small town in Southern California to literally the opposite side of the world? Were there any difficulties that you faced, or what did you experience?
Fortunately, I had studied the language. I was familiar with the culture before I came, so it was pretty smooth. However, the most important lesson that I learned was patience and learning how things work and following how things work. Certain things just took longer to accomplish here, or there were certain hoops you had to jump through to do simple things. For example, getting a bank account. 11 years ago, you had to get a personal seal to get a bank account. No option, no choice. And that was a challenge considering I don't have a Japanese name. But I went through the process. I got the bank account. Back then also, maybe it took 3 months to get things like your internet hooked up for reasons unknown. Again, it's a minor problem, but it could be a little frustrating and you want it to go faster, but there's a process and a procedure. So I quickly learned to be patient and go with the flow, and that really helped me a lot.
Now, we spoke a little bit, well, a lot prior to this conversation in front of the guests here, but you had a bit of a cushion when you first got here working and teaching business English. After that cushion went away, what were the main difficulties that you faced, aside from the bank account and things like that?
In the early days, basically anything that I wanted to do that wasn't connected to my company, I had to do on my own. I can't recall any major issues, but for example, I love driving. So any foreigner here knows, especially if you're from America, it can be very challenging to get a driver's license. Again, there's a procedure. There's hoops you have to jump through. There's a game you have to play. So again, not a huge issue, but it's something I wanted to do, and it was challenging. So pretty simple things like that in the early days. Now, later, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, when you get into starting a business or working for companies, then things get complicated really quickly.
So going into the whole reason why everyone is here, what led you down your path? Where did your career start in terms of digital marketing and communication?
Well, to be honest, digital marketing, most of that was on-the-job training, and here's why. Back when I was earning my undergraduate business degree and when I was earning my MBA, we didn't really have digital marketing. There was just marketing. So I'm a classically trained marketer. That being said, I stay on top of trends. I'm always writing for myself. I'm always writing for clients and the companies that I work for. So as I was in various marketing positions and other positions, I just learned as I went, and I stayed on top of trends. I tested things, I tried things, I researched, and hopefully things have worked out so far so good.
Did you have anyone to help you? I'm sure a lot of you who study business know the mastermind principle, which is you always want to have somebody with you to make the dream come true. Did you have anybody that you went to for, I guess, consultation or mentoring or just help when you were first getting your footing in terms of marketing in Japan?
Absolutely. I've always had good mentors, even in California. So one of my professors, Dr. Christine Pence, she was a great mentor for marketing and entrepreneurship. Coming over to Japan, this person will kill me if I don't mention his name, but one of my friends and former colleagues, Tony Sautel, we would mastermind business ideas before work. We'd meet at Denny's in Shinjuku and just brainstorm all of these ideas. He ended up staying in the corporate world, but a lot of the things we talked about really gave me the confidence to move forward. And even before I started a business, I would mastermind with people just to work better or to improve our careers. So absolutely, there have been people who helped me along the way.
Very nice. Just to point out, I've still actually never been to Denny's in Japan.
It's totally different.
Really?
Yeah.
I usually just go there for French fries.
I think they have unlimited coffee refills, by the way.
I have to take them up on that.
Check it out.
So what was we talked a little bit about it before we got here, and you said you found a love for writing all the way back when you were in junior high, I believe. Do you want to touch on that? And
Sure.
how that led you into your current career path?
Sure. So you're absolutely right. I've loved writing since I was in junior high. I seemed to do okay at it, and that continued until I got into college and realized that writing is a big part of marketing. Other things are too, like statistics and so on, but you can do a lot in marketing with writing. So I continued to write, whether or not I was getting paid for it, and I've been writing for that long. And I kept writing for companies, clients, and now that is one of the core products and services that I offer.
And you have your MBA from University of California, Riverside. A lot of people do not commit to school for that long. So what was the greatest thing you learned in all of your years of college that you still use to this day?
Great question. The greatest thing I learned is, and this goes to business school, number one, the importance of a network. 50% of the value of getting a business degree is a network you develop there. Secondly, I learned, how to manage across all functional areas of a business, and not to become obsessed with tools or trends. For example, a lot of companies will get obsessed with certain IT tools. However, you have to manage those tools. A tool can be great, but if it's not a good fit for your organization, it's hurting you more than harming you. So, the most important thing I learned is managing tools, managing the different aspects of a business, and knowing what's a good practice and what's a bad practice. And that goes across marketing, IT, and HR as well.
And touching on what is a good practice and bad practice, you've worked and consulted for so many companies over so many years. What do you notice are some common, bad practices that you've noticed in both Western and Japanese countries that you've had to deal with often?
Another good question. I'm going to speak about writing. There's plenty of examples, but a lot of companies don't realize the value of good, quality, professional writing. A lot of people think, okay, we have English on our webpage, or we have a lot of text on our webpage, and that's good enough, but it's not. Your copy needs to be clean. It needs to be concise. It needs to be error-free, for example, without mistakes, and it needs to be written to sell. So just because you have an English language webpage, that doesn't mean you are ready for an international audience.
And when consulting with these companies and trying to convey that information, do you experience some reluctance to change the mind of established companies and people that are already, in their own groove of how to market and present their product to their audience?
Absolutely. Especially when you tell clients you want to write less or have less content on their webpage, that is a constant struggle. But again, we all know people, generally speaking, don't read these days. So you really have to be concise about what you say, and you really have to be creative.
And were there any differences specifically that you noticed between, let's say, an American company or a Japanese company that you just come to accept or learn how to work around?
Another great question, and I'm going to share my experience. I can't generalize. Every company is unique, but in my small corner of the world, one thing that I've noticed is with Japanese companies, it sometimes takes a very long time to build the relationship before you can seal the deal or become a client or get them as a client. It might take half a year, for example. But once they become a client, they really have trusted me with their brand and with their content, and they really give me the space to do my work. Where with a Western company, and again, this depends on the company, oftentimes the relationship can be forged very quickly, but the client is going to be more involved and more over my shoulder as far as getting involved with the work. Now that means they may ask questions about the style guide that we're using, or they may wonder why I'm formatting a sentence this way, for example. So you have to navigate those differences depending on who you work with.
And do the American companies ever lighten up once you show them, hey, I've been doing this for a living, I can handle it? Do they ever kind of just give you the reins to do your own thing?
Some do, some don't. But I should say, these days I mostly work with Japanese companies. So there aren't too many American companies that I've worked with.
I see. So you've been currently working with Japanese companies, and with you being in Japan for so long, what do people not discuss enough when it comes to marketing and the multiple facets of social media marketing, digital ads, print ads. What's something that you wish people talked about more?
This is something that comes up in my NYU Tokyo class every quarter. We get together, and what people are not talking about enough when it comes to marketing are the many ways you can market. These days, it's all about digital marketing. Everyone focuses on digital marketing exclusively, and to me, that's dangerous. I understand why digital marketing or a digital exclusive strategy is popular. Digital is cheap, you get a lot of data, and it has a perception that it's easy to do. However, it's not the most effective way for all companies. For example, if you are entering a new market, if you're a large firm with a huge budget, you should be looking at all kinds of marketing. Print is not entirely dead yet. You have billboards, television is still powerful, especially in this country. So you need to look at what we call integrated marketing communications all across the board. Now for small companies, we have a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs here. Digital might not help you at all here in Tokyo because you haven't built your brand yet. In my other seminar, I talk about how, for me, digital is the second part of my marketing process. For me, as an unknown brand in Japan, it's more important for me to do personal selling or networking, getting out and meeting people, showing my face, talking about my business. Then, after I meet people and after they get my business card, they see who I am, then they can come and see my digital marketing or my website to kind of validate what I've been talking about. So again, what people are not talking about in marketing is the relevance of other marketing channels besides digital.
Is that something that you struggled with when you first started marketing personally, or were you always aware of checking every facet of possible marketing? Back when you first came to Japan?
For me personally?
For you personally, yes.
Well, when I first came to Japan, I didn't need to market myself so much because I was a company guy. However, I was a writer, and I was writing blogs about communication, public speaking, and tourism, and things like that. So I was just playing with digital marketing then. So for me, that was okay. But again, it wasn't super effective because no one knew who I was.
And if you could do something differently, if you could start over today with a reset and do something differently, what would you tell your younger self to be aware of or to go for?
Oh my.
We've got time.
Good. Well, let me start with the two biggest things. Number one, I would tell my younger self to work harder to find a Japanese partner to start my business with. It's not necessary. Obviously, I went ahead and got started anyway, but having a Japanese partner who could help with sales and administration and just help you navigate the cultural waters saves a lot of time and a lot of headaches. So that's number one. Number two, I would have told myself to look into immigration law more. Talk to an immigration lawyer sooner in this process because, as I learned these days, there are a ton of loopholes, and these are the bad kind of loopholes, not the ones that help you in the immigration system that really take a lot of your time and cause a lot of stress. Thankfully, I have a great immigration lawyer now, but I wish I had talked to him years before I started my business.
Do you have to deal with a lot of different lawyers and professionals? Well, obviously you do in Japan, but do you find any difficulty finding the correct ones? Like, do you go through trial and errors, or do you have them referred to you, or how do you find the right team to accomplish what you need to get done?
I've been very lucky because of my network, and again, I'm always telling people to start building their networks. Some of you here heard that message last time. I'm gonna say it again. I outsource two things: immigration matters and accounting. And both of those businesses came through my network. I used to work with my immigration lawyer, and then my accountant also came through my network, and they are a great fit for my business. So that's how I found them.
Very cool. I want to migrate a little bit and talk to you about your milestones. Like, there's always going to be a lot of hiccups in any facet of life, especially in business and starting your own business, which we'll also get to. But what were your milestones or your top 3 milestones during the course of your career?
Top 3, that's difficult. Top 3, okay. Well, can I narrow it down to just Japan or a whole career?
Let's do just Japan since we're here.
Okay, just Japan, because my career is kind of split between America and Japan right now. The first milestone was getting here. This is a hard country to immigrate to, as many of you know. So just getting here and having a great experience. A lot of people have, difficult experiences with their first job in Japan. I had a wonderful experience and started building that great network. So that was milestone number 1. Milestone number 2, I guess, would be the speed at which I got promoted in my first company. So within 2 years, I went from working at a branch in Shinjuku to being in the head office and getting dispatched to Fortune 500 companies to work with managers and executives. And that really was a shot in the arm for learning Japanese business culture and working with high-level people and again, building out that network. And then can I give you 4 milestones?
As many as you want. That's why the people are here.
Okay, I'm a writer, not a math guy. So let's go back to milestone number 3 was obviously the American Chamber of Commerce. I'm really grateful I had that opportunity. That, again, put my networking into hyperdrive. And there I got to see what Western executives were doing here in Japan and how things operated. I had chances to work with the Japanese government and work on events where Ambassador Kennedy was in attendance or Prime Minister Abe was in attendance. So that was an amazing experience. And then naturally the final milestone would be stepping out on my own and doing what I do now as a communications consultant.
And that segues into my next question.
All right.
How's it been starting your own, or how's it been being your own communications consultant at Saga Consulting? And what do you see for your future?
Great question. And this is a good opportunity to stress that what I'm doing is really simple. And anyone who is, a marketer or, designer or a coder who can start a low overhead business can do this. So it's been a great experience. I'm a company of one and I partner with other people and organizations to take on bigger projects. But so far, it's been good so far. And what I hope to do in the future is expand beyond me. Build the brand into something bigger. I want to create more systems. A lot of my business, about 50% of my business, depends on me being physically in a place to, coach someone or to give a presentation. I want to create systems. I want to productize a few things, so maybe I can launch some online training tools or seminars or things like that. This may require another goal, which is incorporating further. So right now I'm a sole proprietor, Kojin Jigyo Nushi, but I'm looking into incorporating at least to a Godo Gaisha, which is like a limited liability company as well. I'd like to grow the brand beyond me is the vision right now.
And that leads me to another question. Now, I did a bit of digging and I saw you worked at a place called Electronic Boutique Games. If anyone grew up in the 90s, early 2000s, this was a video game company that was similar to GameStop, just not as popular. And because they could not adapt to trends, they unfortunately went belly up. So my question to you, as someone who's been in the game for so long and who literally studies trends on a day-to-day basis, did you notice anything when you were working there that you would have went to the CEO and been like, hey,
GameFly. GameFly's a thing. You can rent games now. Did you notice anything that was going on?
You're gonna make me show my age. Okay. So yeah, this was a long time ago. This is my part-time job working my way through college. And to be honest, and this is the game industry, so I'm going to geek out a little bit. Back then, GameSpot, they could not have imagined the landscape that's going on right now. They couldn't imagine that they were going to be pushed out of business through digital distribution or digital games. And to be honest, I hate to say it, but from a corporate perspective, they were actually doing a lot of good things at that time. They would buy pre-owned games and then for a very low price and mark them up. And for some reason, a lot of people would buy them and they were making a ton of profit. So yeah, sorry I can't answer your question, but they were actually doing very good things from a business perspective. Is it consumer friendly? No, but they were very profitable. Now, fast forward, 5, 10, 15 years after I worked there, then absolutely I would have said, hey, the writing's on the wall, games are going digital, you need to figure out another strategy, you need to innovate, pivot, or something. But yeah, back when I worked there, they were doing pretty well.
They were doing all the right things. They just couldn't see it coming.
Yeah, they just didn't look far enough ahead.
Have you ever dealt with a company that you see their trajectory is going down a similar path? Like when you first meet someone for consulting, do you see like a situation happening that they don't see yet? Have you ever experienced anything like that?
I haven't had a client like that. Fortunately. What I will say, and for all the digital marketers out there, I do see trends in privacy, in digital marketing. So this is just a general statement, but for all of you digital marketers out there, we're going to see more demand for privacy. And I think companies that ignore that will be hurt. So personally, I haven't worked with clients like that, but generally speaking, that's one trend I think we should all look out for is the increasing value of privacy online.
That's good to know because I would have never thought of that.
Oh, yeah, I was just reading an article yesterday, I think, and it was the top 5 trends for digital marketing in 2020, and I think privacy was number 1. And you'll see that echoed across the board as well.
Interesting.
So, and again, we don't know if it's going to happen for sure, but I think we should all be watching out for that.
That's how you know it's going to be on the test. We should all be watching for that. And then these are more just questions that I had for you before I pass it on to the Q&A. I get first dibs, sorry. Where do you see, you studied your craft more than anyone, well, more than a lot of people.
Okay.
You studied your craft more than a lot of people, and now it seems like you're getting into the territory of leaving a legacy behind. So maybe you haven't thought about this, or maybe you have, but is there an impact you want to leave on the marketing community in Tokyo, being a professor and an expert in the field? Have you ever thought about your legacy or what you'd like to, I guess, your next milestone?
Wow, that's a deep question. But seriously, I'm thinking about it in general terms, and I haven't really articulated it in this environment before, so I hope it comes out right. But really, what I try to do, and this is going to require a little storytelling, but I guess in my parents' generation and generations before that, I had the perception that life, getting the job you want, working for one company, all your life was pretty straightforward. I'm not saying it's easy, but there was a roadmap to career success, or at least, making enough to take care of your family. I think, I started to notice this when I was in college, and I see this with the younger generation. Nowadays, that path is not so clear. it's very hard to tell people, do this and you're going to have enough money to take care of your family. Do this and you're going to have a good life. No one really knows those answers. So one thing that has motivated me and that I'm passionate about is just trying to help people navigate through their careers and do what they want, work for quality companies, be fulfilled in their work and make a good living doing so. So if I could, in the long run, in the distant future, not just through digital marketing, but through consulting or just mentoring, I really want to help, my generation, the younger generation, have fulfilling careers and navigate through life. So it's a little vague right now, but that's the long-term goal.
You're essentially trying to give people tools that you noticed people didn't have back in the day, and you're trying to make sure they're aware of how they can make an impact themselves.
Yeah, just tools or I just want to help people find their way because it's frustrating. It's frustrating when you go to school, when you work hard, you do your best, and those efforts aren't recognized, or they end up taking you in a place you didn't expect. I mean, that's frustrating, and I see that in America. I see that in Japan. You see that everywhere. So yeah, that's a problem I'd like to start solving.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering all of my ridiculous questions.
Not ridiculous at all. They're great questions. Tough questions.
I tried.
We'd like to open the floor to the question and answer section. So if you have a question, feel free to raise your right and or left hand, and we will answer. Yes, sir.
Thank you for your time, and the host as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
How hard was the process of actually incorporating a sole proprietor company? Were there any major hurdles? Like maybe reframing one of the previous questions. If you went back and did it again, how did you find the process? What would you do?
Sure. I have good news for you. Finally, I have good news to say. Anyone who, and by the way, I should say I'm not a lawyer, so if you're going to start a business, please talk to a lawyer, but I'll be happy to share my experience. If you have a low overhead business, photography, design, writing, anyone in this room can try to be a sole proprietor in Japan. It's incredibly easy. I give Japan tons of credit for this. It's probably easier to do it here than in our home countries. Basically, if you start earning money as a writer or a designer or something like that, you can just start doing the work. And then when tax season comes around February, if you've made over, I think it's a couple $1,000s in US dollars, double check with a professional. You go to the tax office and you fill out a particular form. You can choose a company name if you want to, but you don't have to. You can just totally freelance, and then you're good to go as a sole proprietor. Now, the other higher levels of incorporation, and that's where Leo and his team can help you. That's more challenging. That's one of my current business struggles, is looking into that and figuring out how to do that. And I know how to do it, but the hurdles are still pretty high. But again, if you want to be a sole proprietor in Japan, anyone here can do that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah, good news.
This is good news. Yeah.
Yes, very good news. Very good news.
So you didn't have to set up a separate bank account or business like that, so you can.
Exactly. Yeah.
Check with the lawyer, yes.
Yeah, check. But you don't. That one I can say because I don't have a separate business account. Now I should say, being incorporated grants you legitimacy with your clients. Your Japanese clients are going to want to see a separate business bank account. They're going to want to see, kabushiki gaisha, corporation after your name. However, there's nothing wrong with testing the waters and seeing what people will trust before that. I was very fortunate, again, going back to my network, there were a lot of people who trusted me, they knew what I was doing, and I'm also very grateful that the previous companies I worked for became my first clients. So that really helped me. But if you're just coming to Japan and you don't have a network, you might want incorporation, separate bank account and all that to increase your credibility. My pleasure.
Do you think it's getting a little bit easier to start a business over time with the higher influx of foreigners? I know you came out here when it was probably a little bit less. So do you think it's changing?
It is changing a lot. There's still a long way to go, but when I came here 11 years ago, you know, doing your own business, being an entrepreneur, it was like a bad word. You know, now we have a vibrant startup community. The Prime Minister is promoting entrepreneurship. We have, at least in the city of Fukuoka, maybe in Tokyo, there's an entrepreneur visa as well. There's a lot of English language support by the government that you can get here in Tokyo, and none of that was here 11 years ago. So it is getting easier.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure.
Are there any more questions?
Yeah, you guys talked about trends a little earlier, and you gave some of them, but I kind of wanted to ask what you think are going to be some trends in marketing specifically. Like you touched on shorter copyright because people don't want to read. What are some other trends like that anyone who's doing marketing in here should probably implement in 2020?
Good question. So again, I think concise copy is just, I wouldn't call that a trend. I think that's just good writing, being concise. One trend, again, watch out for privacy. You know, make sure you're up to date on, you know, privacy regulations. And again, I think products and services that are promoting privacy are going to be popular. If you read online, I'm not sure I fully buy into this, but you know, a lot of sources are saying optimizing for voice search, for example, with people using Amazon Echo and you know, Google Home and all that. That is another trend as well. Video content, you know, continues to be popular as well. So if you're not into video and you have the resources, you know, continue to step up your video content machine as well. But those would be the main trends off the top of my head. Another thing to watch out for is just which social media networks are performing. A few years ago, we lost Google Plus, you know, and that affected some of my clients as well. So, you know, keep an eye out. I think we'll have the main players in place for the year, but, you know, watch the networks. Things could change as well. Sure.
Yeah, Yahoo groups as well is a good idea.
Thank you. Yes, good point. If you're using Yahoo groups, that's over as well. I'm not sure if many people are, but yeah, that's a good point. You know, watch the networks. They come and go. Thank you.
I can't say I'm surprised because I was surprised people used Yahoo period when I came. That was the biggest culture shock when I got here.
And yeah, just touching on that as well, Rihanna sent out a tweet and Snapchat lost 9 million users, I think, in less than 3 days or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always just good. Social media is always something to be aware of. Do you notice any platforms that may explode? I know TikTok is popping in China and in America. Do you think there are any social media apps that people should be aware of for 2020 or the near future?
Nothing off the top of my head. However, I think it's important to realize the landscape here in Japan is quite different than the rest of the world. So, you know, besides TikTok, which is new, I'm not aware of anything that might blow up, but who knows? That being said, it's important to be aware that since I last checked, I believe Twitter is still the #1 network here in Japan. Instagram is probably the fastest growing. You know, Facebook, of course, is popular. LinkedIn, I'm trying to get that going here in Japan, as some of you know. You know, I want it. I really think it should succeed here, but I don't see any signs of rapid growth this year. And then you also have to think about, you know, messaging strategy if you're into that. I don't work in that field. But, you know, you have Line. Do you want to get involved with Line? I mean, that's still the king, and I don't see that changing.
Yeah.
So yeah, you really have to think which platforms you're going to use.
So thank you. Is there? I have another question, but I want to open it to you guys.
I do too.
Yes, you can.
Really?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's what we're here for.
So in the Japanese companies that they were working with, you sort of mentioned, alluded to them, Japan's sort of unique market in some respects. Do you see them being more open to sort of, just even marketing, branding? Have they started to see the change in the lines they're working with, or do you still find it quite traditional and sort of insurance approach?
Great question. So it's Dean, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well done.
I'm trying. I'm trying. So Dean's question is about Japanese companies. Do you see them, or do I see them as being more open to new marketing ideas, or are they still pretty traditional? The companies. This is a good chance, I guess, to talk about the companies I work with. My niche are the companies that are going from 0 to 1. They want to do something. They want to launch their social media presence because I'm a company of 1. So there's only so much I can handle. So those companies, they are obviously showing interest if they're willing to work with me at all. That means they're interested. However, change is slow, change is gradual. For example, for one particular client, it probably took me about a year to convince them to start an email newsletter, which is the holy grail of marketing, by the way. So if anyone wants to know what's probably the best digital marketing tool you can use, it's not a social platform, it's having a strong email marketing list. And that takes a lot of hard work. So it took almost a year to get them on board with that, but they did it, which is great. And I can be patient. It's okay. So yeah, I think companies are opening up, but in a Japanese way, in a very measured, careful way, and I'm okay with that. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Let's say I were to open a digital marketing agency. What do you think be the sort of ideal order of operations in terms of, let's say, incorporating a company or getting outsourced accountants lined up or building a website? What your smarter way to go about it?
Great question. And your name is?
Sean.
So Sean is saying, what is the order of processes for incorporating a marketing company? The first thing I'll say is this is probably better fielded by Leo, since he is a bigger company, he is incorporated, so definitely talk to him about that. They have a lot of great stories. What I will say is you might not need to incorporate. Do what you can without incorporating first. There's a lot you can do as a sole proprietor. And in that case, the order of procedure is to do the work. Start working. Don't worry if do I have the right project management software? Do I have the right invoicing system? Make sure you have the right visa, for immigration. But, start doing the work. Find out, start writing and see how people respond to your writing. Start, running your social media accounts and see how people respond, get data. One thing I suggested to a student once was in Japan, especially in the countryside, there are a lot of businesses eager to, attract tourists or get foreign customers. On a volunteer basis, approach them and say, hey, can I handle your marketing, your digital marketing? And, let them be a portfolio piece for you. So if you do have to incorporate, talk to Leo, but my advice would be, try not to in the beginning. Try to get clients, build a portfolio, do the work first, and validate whatever marketing your idea you have. Does that help?
Yeah, it does.
Great, my pleasure. Okay.
You were saying in Japan it takes longer time to create trust compared to in the US. Is there any way to shorter this process? You were only 5 months, and I'm curious if you found a way, because you have so many Japanese clients more actually, can you actually shorten the process?
Great question. Axel, right? Okay, so Axel's question is, you know, we all know it typically takes a long time to build trust with Japanese clients and customers. Axel's asking, you know, can we shorten that time? I don't know. You know, I've never tried to, but I'm actually unique. I actually enjoy the way business is done here. I enjoy relationship-based business. It takes a long time, which can be very stressful when you're first starting out. But I haven't resisted. I'm okay with it because I enjoy working with my clients. Not only working with them, I enjoy going to their nomikais or their farewell parties and having lunch with them. And that could benefit you in the long term because once that relationship is built, hopefully your client won't leave you for a minor thing like finding a cheaper supplier or someone who can undercut your price. Hopefully they will value that relationship as well. So I'm not sure if you can shorten it, but I'm not sure that you want to shorten it either. My pleasure. My pleasure. Yes.
I'm experiencing America in Japan. What's the difference between how Japanese people and non-Japanese people consume media, like media?
For example, like online content? Or,
yeah, like online content.
This is just based on my experience. I've found, at least looking at client websites and how they like to have their information, it seems like a lot of Japanese companies and customers like to have a lot of text and content on their website. Whereas in the States, like I said, a lot of people just don't have time to read. So we're looking for something more concise. So based on my experience, a lot of Japanese companies just put a lot of content on their website, a lot of details about their product and services right up front. So that's one difference that I've noticed. I think customers here are more willing to consume a lot of information just from the website. My pleasure.
There was one more question I had earlier. Earlier, during our conversation, you mentioned, I believe, Fukuoka.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think because Fukuoka has the entrepreneurship visa, do you still think for people just now moving to Japan or people who have just gotten to Tokyo, do you still think it would be more beneficial for them to go to somewhere where they're hungry for entrepreneurs or somewhere like Tokyo where it's still the prime hub for networking, meeting people, and just population size? They'd have a better opportunity being in the city.
I hate to admit it because I love the smaller cities of Japan, to be honest. But not only based on my experience, but the experience of founders that I've talked to, a gentleman who runs a startup accelerator here in Tokyo. Almost everyone will say Tokyo is where the opportunity is, unfortunately. Because the other cities here need attention, they need love. But if you want to increase your chances, especially as a foreigner, probably you want to start in Tokyo. However, Fukuoka is doing wonderful things with their startup community. The mayor over there is very active. I'm working on a content project right now, interviewing an entrepreneur, and he told me a story about how the mayor took him abroad on a trip, and by the end of the trip, he had decided to incorporate into Fukuoka, and he got tons of support. So, if you have to be in Tokyo, it's a good thing, but explore Fukuoka, especially if you have a tech or a fintech startup or something like that. There is a lot of activity out there, and out of all the cities in Japan, that's where I see besides Tokyo, the most entrepreneurial activity.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure.
Is there anything else?
No, I was pointing to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to ask, so what you have said is amazing. push the positivity and about enjoying the work and the relationship with customer. And this is perfect. Okay, so could you please let us a little bit about the disappointing stuff and the challenges and how you overcome this and what actually you do when something doesn't work out? So that could also help.
Great question. May I have your name one more time?
My name is Adam.
Adam, that's right. Okay. So Adam's question is, what disappointments, what challenges have I overcome, and can I talk about that? Great question. Great question. The first challenge, I guess, is, getting the courage to do something like this. I mean, it took me 8 years of working for companies in Japan, and if you include my time in the States, it's getting close to 18 years. So the first challenge is just building up the confidence to do something like this. How did I overcome it? Again, through education, and also actually through working for companies. And by looking at the pain points of the companies I work for and their clients, it started to give me ideas. Again, by writing and doing the work before I stepped out on my own, built confidence and the safety net. And I still don't know what the future holds, but it was enough to help me step out and give it a try. Now, you're probably looking for something more concrete, so I'm going to go back to immigration. Just dealing, when you change visas, you're almost always going to be knocked down to a situation where you have to go to the immigration office every year. And that's a lot of work, it could be a lot of money, and sometimes that just makes you frustrated. And you think, if I lived in America, I wouldn't have this big issue. The government does a great job in supporting immigrants if you're a manual labor or if you are a billionaire tech founder. But the regular people in the middle, just regular productive members of society that want to live here and contribute, there hasn't been much reform or innovation in that part. So that has been my most frustrating part of this journey. And how do I overcome it? Again, I have a wonderful lawyer. So I guess the lesson is, if you have challenges, reach out and see who can help you get through it. Because, this is something I could not have overcome on my own. Absolutely.
Excellent. I have attended another presentation for you. It was about how to get your first clients in Japan.
Yes, Tokyo Digital Marketers, yes.
Right. It was amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. And could you please tell us, I know this is a huge process and lots of stories and lots of things, but if you can give us like 1 or 2 core principles to approach the 5 or 10 clients, that would be perfect.
By approach, do you mean to
convert?
Oh, okay. Wow, so I got to give my other presentation. No problem. Let me see how well I've got that memorized. So I had a couple of themes in this presentation. So Adam's referring to my other popular presentation about getting your first clients in Japan. And we've talked about some of those things. Number one, and I say it all the time, your network. Building your network. If you're working for a company, network within your company, but also network outside of your industry. Because again, if you do a good job with networking and working hard in your company, you might find that your first clients will be your company or people in your network. The second part of that presentation was to study Japanese as well. So it's not necessary, but if you want to work with Japanese clients, you need to show them that you're comfortable speaking with them. You need to reduce the burden of them working with you. If you only speak English and they don't want to speak English, that's a burden, that's a barrier. So again, studying Japanese was also very important for getting your first clients as well. So networking, working for your company and observing pain points, doing the work. And that brings me to my final point, which I also mentioned over here. Don't wait for permission to start working. if you're a writer, start writing, even if it's volunteer work. Build a portfolio and have that ready to go. Show people what you can do. To give a concrete example, I think a lot of you here know that I work for a company called Tadaima Japan, and I had to submit samples to earn their business. And of course, I submitted work that I had been paid to do, but I also submitted work that I had written just on my own, because I wanted to write something about a tourism destination. And oftentimes you'll find clients might prefer the work that you wrote on your own over work that you've been paid for. Because when you're writing your own work, it's 100% you. Where the work that you've been paid for might have been changed or gone through a committee or something like that. So again, it's so important just to start doing the work. Don't wait for permission. Just start writing, start designing, start taking photos, start coding, whatever it is you want to do. Build that portfolio and then show it to clients saying, I can do this. My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Sure, anytime.
Well, that's going to wrap up the Q&A. Let's all give a warm round of applause, and I thank you. And if you have any last minute plugs or tidbits you want to give up, now's your chance before we move on.
Thank you for the opportunity, Eric. Nothing particular no particular products to plug at this moment, but I would appreciate it if you read my content, find me on LinkedIn, visit my webpage, learn about me, and if there is a way I can help you, feel free to let me know. But that's about it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right.